Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for joining our webinar, presented in partners with Comtech Consulting and Comtech Systems. We'll be talking about refund reviews and technology solutions, how to streamline processes, enhance profitability for manufacturers. And we have our presenters, Mike Vertoli from Comtech Systems, Chief Executive Officer over there, and then Brian S. here at Layton, our state and local tax practice lead. So I'll pass it over to these guys to further introduce themselves and kick things off and get us going.
Yes, thank you, Patrick. Thank you, everybody, for coming and listening to this. Refund reviews and technology solutions, streamlining processes, enhancing profitability for manufacturers. Say that 3 times fast, right? But the point of the title, I think, is to say we are here to help you minimize costs, create savings, get cash back, all of that good stuff. So we're happy that you're here. And with that, let's do a little background information on ourselves. So I lead our state and local tax practice, as Patrick mentioned. I've been with Layton for about 2 years now. Prior to that, spent about a dozen years in accounting and tax law industry. Spent several of those years with Big 4 and top 10 CPA firms. So I've been living and breathing state and local taxes for a while. Happy to be here with you guys. Mike?
Yep. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Brian, for the introduction. Mike Vertoli. I'm the president and CEO here at Comtech Consulting. You might have heard Comtech Systems, which is our parent company. For the purpose of this webinar, we're going to talk about our consulting services in that division. I ran Comtech now for 32 years, and I think you'll find a lot of interest in what we can offer with our knowledge and history with cost reduction relative to the public utility sector.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And I still can't believe you've been with Comtech for 32 years. I don't think you look a day over 32. So hats off to you. All that savings for your clients must have been keeping you young.
Yeah, keeps me young. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Our agenda for today pretty streamlined, unlike our title of the presentation. So quick intro to Layton, quick intro to Comtech, and then we'll talk about some opportunities to get you those savings and refunds that I referenced. So let's get into it. Layton Group has been around for about, it says over 25 years. It's been almost 30, I think. We are in up to 18 different countries, I believe. And we have offices in Boston and San Francisco. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. We have people in Houston and Dallas and Florida and Chicago. And I think that's kind of all businesses nowadays, right? We have people all over the place. But I will obviously be talking a little bit about state and local tax services that we offer. But we also offer research and development tax credit, energy efficiency credits. So, if we as we talk through this, if you own your own building, right, as a manufacturer, your clients own your own building, and we can help out with energy efficiency upgrades for that as well. But that's Layton in a nutshell. Mike?
So Comtech Cloud is a division of our parent company where we're offering unified communications that offer voice and data technologies. Our consulting division is really just a front runner to introducing our clients to our services. We will help on the front end with optimizing efficiencies with telecommunications, which has eventually led into just all public utility services. We are a US-based company with offices in New York and New Jersey, but we do service the continental US. Our focus in the consulting world, which is what we're going to talk about in today's call, is all about optimization in the public utility sector, again, with deregulated states and how you can help your clients. There's some really good tidbits we can teach you, and hopefully you can leverage this to give your clients a better opportunity for savings. We service about 3,000 organizations in the U.S. We are a 9-time winner of Inc. 5000, and we maintain a 99% client retention rate. And mainly because most of our clients will not leave once they experience these savings. It's a perpetual relationship where you'll find a lot of these services. We regurgitate those savings over and over again for them.
Yeah, that 99% means you're doing something right, huh, Mike?
Yeah, they don't want to. Yeah, which I'm sure that's for most of the professional services. You guys on the phone, I mean, you don't really. Sure. Clients don't want to leave you, right? So if we all do a good job and we find good savings, the clients just want to continue to work with us and find out what else is under the hood, and there's always something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for you listening, you might say, okay, well, Layton's a tax consulting firm and Comtech does these system services. Why do they decide to join forces here? Well, the short answer is that we both offer these tax savings that Mike referenced, and we like to work with manufacturers to get those refunds back on utilities, lower those utility costs. And so we're going to dive into that, but that's kind of the quick background. The one other thing that I wanted to mention before we get into the meat is please feel free to share any questions through the Q&A. We have a team that will be monitoring those. Maybe we'll put Pat on the button and see if he can answer any of those off the cuff. But happy to answer any questions. Please feel free to interrupt us as we go. I also like to see where people come from. So if you're on, please share where you're living. Mike and I almost got in a fight before this because he's an Eagles fan and I'm a Chiefs fan. So anybody who watched the Super Bowl know that didn't go well for me. So all right, let's get into it a little bit here. So state and local tax, I've referenced, right, SALT for short. There's a lot that goes into it. I don't want to read this full slide to you. As one of my law professors used to say, you can read it in the quiet of your own study. I don't know if anybody listened to him, but that phrase always stuck with me. But SALT is more than what we're going to talk about today. There's a lot that goes into it, right? If you're preparing for due diligence or one day hope to sell a company, you can make sure that no surprises come up through due diligence. It provides you with we put accurate awareness there, just gives you a blueprint of what your business is doing and how we're doing it. If, knock on wood, at a time ever comes where a state or local government puts you under audit, you won't have to worry about it because you're up to date. You're doing all the things that you should be doing, so becoming quote unquote audit proof. And then just making sure that any of the systems that you have in place right now, whether that's software or your CPA, everything is running like it should be. There's no gaps in all the services that you've got going on. Oh, I go the wrong way. There we go. And so that's kind of what SALT is and what does it entail. These are a few of the things that it does entail. Again, feel free to read this. I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to cover what you've came here for today. But you might have heard the word Nexus studies. We're happy to do those for you. Voluntary disclosures and registrations. I sometimes joke that my job is to keep you out of trouble or get you out of trouble if you are in trouble. And so Nexus studies and voluntary disclosures, that kind of stuff is some of the stuff that we do to help with that. Sales and use tax reverse audits. We're going to talk about that here in a second. And then just all other general consulting, SALT consulting. So exemption certificate management is big, especially if you're a manufacturer. We'll talk about this some more, but a lot of times our manufacturers say, hey, we are collecting exemption certificates from everybody that we're selling to. We're giving our exemption certificate out. That's great. We're also here to help make sure that what you're collecting is up to date. It's accurate. There's no nothing that's fishy about it, anything like that. Property tax reporting, obviously, as a manufacturer, you're going to have a lot of different property. Some of these states will say that you owe, a certain amount of property tax on it. We can dispute that if we believe there's an argument to be made. So all that kind of different stuff, we're also happy to help out with. But we are here to talk about refund reviews, aka reverse audits. In the industry, the accounting industry, that is, they are known as reverse sales tax audits. We at Layton think that a refund sounds better than an audit, so we've kind of done some rebranding on it and call it a refund. It sounds better, right? But I'm still working with our legal team. I don't think we've got that copy written yet. So if I see anybody out there stealing that lingo, I'll know that you that you listened to the webinar and stole it from me. But the 5 W's of refund reviews, we are going to run through this. They're probably not in the order that you learned in elementary school, but bear with us. So what is a refund review or a reverse audit? It's a situation where your business has paid more sales or use tax than you should have. It's important to keep in mind that we are looking at your business as a buyer here and not a seller. A lot of times we get on the phone, we talk with potential clients and they say, hey, you know what? I'm a manufacturer. I sell to wholesalers. They turn around and resell it. So we don't need to worry about collecting sales tax. Or we talk to someone who says, hey, I provide some sort of non-taxable service. While that's all well and good, what we're doing here is making sure that you're not paying sales tax on products and services that you didn't need to. So looking at it as your business as a buyer, not a seller. And then what we're trying to accomplish is cash back, right? So that's fantastic. It's not a deduction or a credit. Deductions and credits are amazing. They're useful tools, but cash is king, right? So if we can get you some cash money back into your pocket, you can use it how you like, right? It doesn't need to be on a tax return. Spring break's coming up. Mike, I don't know if you have any good spring break plans, but I'm sure that if I gave you some cash, you'd be happy to spend it on your team and some form of spring break gift. Why? So we're talking about your business as a buyer. You've overspent on sales tax. Why does this happen? A lot of times it's some sort of vendor or rate issue. So your vendor, when they sell you some sort of product or machine, they don't know what you're using it for, or they know, hey, I have to charge this manufacturer, you as your business or your client's business, we have to charge them sales tax to cover our rear end, right? In the case that the state of, I'm just picking a state here, the state of Texas audits us, we will be able to say, hey, look, we've collected all the sales tax on all of our sales. And so they need to do that unless and until you give them an exemption certificate. So they don't know that you're using an exempt manner. If you don't give them an exemption certificate, they're going to charge you tax. And so combine that with some of the bullet points down the slide. You're running your business. You're not reviewing every invoice that comes in. That's where the sales tax gets charged. That's why you pay it. That's why there's a refund opportunity. Other situations that occur, vendor charges the wrong rate. I've had clients who have been working with their vendor for 15 years. Great relationship. They're buying the same thing month over month, year over year. And the sales tax rate changes. This was in Arizona. A few years back, they reduced their sales tax rate by 1%. Now you might say 1%, not that big of a deal. And that might be true on a purchase of a widget. But when you're buying 1 million widgets every single year, that adds up, right? So vendor just didn't realize that there was a rate change. And so they've been overcharging our client for a long time. Wrong state or partially exempt items. So you can imagine a situation. I'm in Arizona, so I deal with California a lot, right? We're next to it. And California is always fun to deal with. But they have very high sales tax rates. And so if you have a vendor that's selling you something in, Texas, I'll say again, which has a lower tax rate, they might think to themselves, okay, the tax rate where I'm at is 10%. I'll just charge our customer 10%. Again, you're not looking at the invoice, or you didn't give them the exemption certificate. And so you pay the bill. Now you've been overcharged tax. So these situations come up. Don't feel too bad about it. It happens a lot. Take solace in knowing that you're not the only one. And then products and services are taxable there, but not here. So this comes up a lot when we talk about software. For instance, quality control software might be taxable in Arizona, but not in California. So if I'm selling to a vendor in California, I might assume, hey, it's taxable here, it's taxable everywhere. But that's not the case. So just understanding that these situations occur. And then again, like I said, you're running your business. You're not looking at every single invoice that comes in, or your accounts payable isn't looking at every single invoice. You're just making sure that those bills get paid so that you can get all the stuff that you need. New vendors. We have clients that come in a lot that say, hey, you know what? We did this exercise 4 or 5 years ago. I think we're good to go. New vendors happen a lot, right? So you're buying from somebody else. You didn't give them an exemption certificate, so now you're back to paying sales taxes. And erroneous use tax payments. If you don't get charged sales tax, a lot of you might know this, you're supposed to self-remit use tax. So we have clients that say, hey, we didn't get charged sales tax, so we're self-remitting use tax. Well, again, you might not need to do that if you have an exempt purchase. And then finally, or not finally, but the third W, where it's just the state where you're located. So if your business is in Texas, that's where we're looking at to do the refunds. Okay. And then the last couple W's here, and how and buts. I'm adding in different letters here. Bear with me. When should we do this refund review or reverse audit? It's typically a 3 to 4 year look back, depending on the state. one of the things that's important to remember is that this is a running 36 to 48 months. So you wouldn't say to yourself, hey, look, it's February of 2025. Therefore, we only have 2 months to look back at or something like that. It's just month over month. I put the JG Wentworth commercial. Mike, do you know this commercial?
I have heard of it.
Okay. I don't know if it's a Midwest thing or not. Hopefully,
no, it's East Coast.
Okay. If you're not familiar with it, they would start these commercials where people would come on and say, what would they say, Mike? Do you remember? No, you don't know it that well, huh?
I won't embarrass myself and try and rehearse it.
They would come on
877 cash now.
That's right. They would say cash now, and they would say, it's my money and I want it now. And so I say that to our clients, like, look, this is your money. Let's go get it now. Meaning it doesn't need to kick off on a certain date. Doesn't need to be done before a tax return is done. Nothing like that. Every single day is a good day for a reverse audit. And then I put on there, each month that passes is another month that falls off. So sometimes you may say, hey, I'm busy. Let's talk about this in 3 months. And I get that, right? We're all busy. We all have busy lives, but just keep in mind that, when February is over, we can no longer get February back from 2022 or whatever year it is. So it's better to get the wheels spinning now. This is just saying how do we go about getting it? We review your purchasing and activity to see if you've overpaid. We ask for your the refunds to your vendors. The reason we go to the vendors first is because it usually works quicker. You have to remember that your vendors are not taking that sales tax and putting it into their coffers, right? This is just simply collecting it and giving it to the state. So it's no dirt off their shoulder. If for whatever reason the vendor relationship is broken or the vendor's gone out of business, we can go to the state. Each state has their own unique process, but we navigate all the states, so no worries there. A couple of rebuttals, and then I'm throwing it over to you, Mike.
Okay.
So I'm just jumping the gun here because I get these questions a lot when we talk about this. So is this gonna bring my business under audit or a review or anything like that through the state? No, it does not. Black and white versus gray. So the state will say, hey, if you're a manufacturer and you buy a piece of equipment to do the manufacturing, it's exempt. The end, right? Very black and white. So don't worry about that. I referenced this earlier. If you're buttoned up, that's great. That's the best case scenario. That means you've been doing this right the whole time. You won't get an invoice on us. It's a contingent basis fee. So it gives you peace of mind if we go in there and find no refund. So that's great. And then the time to complete doesn't need to be very long on your end. We can start with 3 to 6 months of invoices, or if you have a sales tax payable account, we can review that. So shouldn't take much time on the client's end. I lied, Mike. I think I have one more slide, so I'll wrap it up here. And I was going to put you on the button again. What W had I not asked yet, but I gave you the answer. It was who. So who should do these refund reviews? Obviously, we're looking at manufacturer. I put resellers on there because everybody's familiar with that. If you buy something, mark it up and resell it, it's always going to be exempt. That's in every single state. Sales tax is only intended to be charged once. That's why it exists. But for manufacturers, again, every state and broad. Sometimes we say, well, we don't do manufacturing, but we do fabricating. Well, that's manufacturing, processing, mining. I always throw out breweries and wineries there because I like to sneak in a 6-pack or a bottle of wine to test out the client's product. Third-party manufacturing, shared space, all of this is eligible for these refund reviews. And then what you're buying: machinery, equipment, materials, packaging, software, utilities. A lot of stuff is exempt, and that's why we love working with manufacturers. And I really want to hone in on the utility stuff because I know Mike's going to talk about that too. The utilities part, we find a lot sneaks through the cracks with manufacturers. They don't realize that it's exempt. So really want to look at those utility bills, see if there's sales tax on it. If there is, we're happy to help out with that. And then finally, this is it. Agricultural research and development. These are just different industries that have this exemption, and we love to work with them as well. I put restaurants and hotels on there because I find them funny because, states will say, well, a restaurant is a manufacturer of food. And I love the way they look at that. That's great. So you can see on their ovens and freezers, anything that you're using to quote unquote manufacture your food can be exempt as well. All right, Mike, I want to make sure I give you plenty of time, so I'm throwing it over to you.
Thanks, Brian. So you guys can see exactly how that maybe or how this flows in. So Brian is recovering money, and Comtech is helping you optimize the spend moving forward. So we kind of are a unique cost savings organization where we actually have a hyper focus in two categories. You'll meet a lot of companies out there. They might offer dozens of cost savings initiatives, and they might be average at a lot of them. So our entire core, we have 50 plus consultants in-house, focuses in telecommunications and the energy sector. And telecom we look in is in two areas, cellular. It's a big spend for any organization, and most of what we do is proportional to size organization. So you're going to find it doesn't really matter whether somebody has 50 people or 50,000 people. We have organizations in all the spectrums because the spend is all relative to their size. So there's a lot of moving parts inside of managing that spend in cellular. So we will manage telecommunications, unified communications spend, and then we have energy. That's a mysterious market for a lot of organizations, both large and small. There's deregulation that's happened, and it's a tricky sector to navigate. A tremendous amount of savings can be achieved, and it's a big spend for organizations. So some of you on the call are consultants. I think some of you are firms, tax firms. Some of you are actually end user clients. Very few of you will say, I don't have telecom or energy in my life. So we kind of fit into any market, and our core will necessarily be more productive in deregulated markets. And, there could be roughly 25 states in the energy side, and I think all but 3 on the gas side now. So we can pretty much help in almost any organization in one aspect or another. This is our achievement. So this is our hyper focus on our KPIs. So to date, we've saved 1.2 billion. When I say 98.7 retention, what we look at as retention are clients that have used our services and then continue to use our services. So almost always when we are finished in engagement, they find that using a service like ours is more efficient than insourcing it. So we will typically have a managed agreement after the fact, and that's been a hyper growth market for us, as we call it managed services for consulting. Most of our opportunities come from referrals. So it's either existing clients that drive opportunity back to us through maybe they've moved organizations, or a client that meets the need of another, or accounting firm that might find a similar need, and they will introduce us to their downstream clients. And it's very seldom that we do not find savings. So we have a 98% success rate. And with that, we typically will not engage unless we can find 15% savings or more. So the savings is almost always there in one category or another. And that's regardless if the client has experts on staff. We're typically used to walking in, seeing experts, and then helping them get above and beyond maybe what they had the mindset to achieve on their own. Our process, we try and keep it very simple. There's some big firms we compete with, and ours is much easier. One, we do not charge unless we achieve savings. So essentially, we are a budget neutral company. We typically are paid 25% of savings. So it's a minor payment to Comtech relative to the achievement. And we don't invoice until the month after they've saved the money. So it is a budget neutral agreement with us. And it's very simple. We will consult upfront, benchmark the spend across any of those categories. And once the client agrees that they understand what their benchmark is, our job from there is to optimize a potential savings plan, implement it, and manage it. And on a monthly basis, we review the steps that we've taken with the client. We review the savings. We agree on what the savings are, and we do not bill until a client eventually says, yes, I agree, that was a very successful month, and we will bill our savings model against that.
Mike, you're doing a better job of flowing through these than I was.
Yeah, we're pretty simple. So tax is far more complicated. So our complications come from all the knowledge we have here. So it takes a lot of back end knowledge to really navigate the world that we're in. So people always ask me, like, what makes you guys different? Are a whole bunch of companies doing what you do? I think what happens as an end user when you look to achieve the savings in our categories, it's very confusing. They might get prospected by a one-off company. And what I mean is somebody says, hey, I can offer you, savings, and it's one supplier. We are independent. So what we actually sit above those suppliers, and we have the ability to, let's say, an energy deal, I could go out to 60 simultaneous suppliers and I can combine opportunities and give maybe a smaller firm the same buying capacity as a larger firm. We have volumes of people or volumes of clients. We leverage this. So a lot of times I'm able to achieve savings and we have large clients, global Fortune 500 clients. We're able to save savings of 5-10% beyond anything they could have achieved on their own. Sometimes we're exceeding 30 and 40%. And a lot of this happens to do with the human capital we have here and proprietary software, which I'll show you a little bit of.
Yeah. The value proposition is simple, straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody spends money, I think, in public utility sector, and I don't think anybody looks at their monthly bills and says that was awesome. I love paying it. So, whether it's a home user, I mean, and then the thing about what we do is I think it's all proportional. If you take a small company and they're spending $5,000 a month, it's a big number for them. If I take one of our global firms and they're spending, 2 or 3 million a month, it's a big number for them. So in any capacity, the percentage stays consistent.
Right.
So if we're able to achieve 20-30% savings, I don't care what size organization you are, it's money. If you're spending it, somebody's collecting it and you're overspending, right? So we always say, similar
and
to
it's
Brian
money
said,
that you don't need to be spending too. That's the other thing is
you do not need to spend it. And a lot of it's just knowledge, right? So helping companies understand what's out there, navigating a very complicated, deregulated market, and using tools. This type of software that you see on the screen is something I would say some of our larger clients use it. And you go, how the heck do you have energy and gas and telecom and portals? But we link APIs into all the phone and the electric bills. So you will see live dashboards. So larger clients might want to make more strategic decisions in a short term by buying and selling energy, trading it. We're able to get them fast tracked to the underlying suppliers by intercepting middlemen. And that's really big in the industry. And you don't really know all this happens. You just know when you go out to bid or you ask a few people, you get a price. And typically a person says to us, look, I got 3 proposals and here's the best. And they have no knowledge that the fact that their cheapest proposal still could be 20% more than they were entitled to. So an independent consultant like us that has access to forward-thinking metrics, analytics, we can show them dashboards, time of day, the highest peak usage, when to buy. It's very much like a commodity. It is not what people think, especially in these deregulated markets, which is over half the United States. Understanding what's out there and having the ability to have forward-thinking models has helped our clients make better decisions.
Yeah, that's really awesome that you guys have that, so you can have full visibility into that.
It is, yeah. And lastly, people say, well, give me an example. I mean, look, this is one example, and it could be somebody significantly smaller. But like I said earlier, I think the achievement is relative. We recently, we targeted this one because it was a hospital system that had an entire department that did the things we did. They had somebody in charge of telecom, they had somebody in charge of gas, public utility, and they go, you're not going to save us a thing. And the answer for us is that's great because we're not going to actually do a thing for you if we can't achieve 15% or more because it's not worth our time, right? But 22% later, they're looking at each other going, what the heck were we doing all those years, because it's lost money. I'm like, well, you can't change what you spent in the past, right? That's where you need somebody like Brian and his team,
exactly.
right? And there's no recovering it, right, when you overspend, but you can change your life moving forward. And that's where we come in. We kind of dashboard what they're spending, explain to them what the possibilities are, and there's tons of options. It depends what people's risk is and tolerance for risk. We're the ones who sit in the middle of it between all the suppliers. We help negotiate rates that they would be unachievable for them to achieve on their own. We help optimize it, like we talked about, implement it, optimize it, and then manage it moving forward. And the last thing we will do with these clients, anyone, is talk about renewables, cogeneration, lighting, things like that. But that's on top of it all. Our primary goal is just to help them optimize the spend that they currently have in the public utility sector.
Yeah. And to add to that, if and when you get to that renewable conversation, we can help back out with the energy efficiency tax credits. So again, you can see why late
goes full circle.
Yep.
Exactly.
And that's that. So I know we went 1 minute over. Thanks everybody for sticking around. Mike, I don't know if there's any last words that you might have.
I mean, I think for all of us, like we're very used, these webinars go quick, you learn a lot, but I
Right.
would not shy away from just pinging us. If you just want to have a one-on-one and just say, I have a quick question, there's no bad question, there's no bad scenario. What we found from these is it might open your mind up. You might look at, like, I have a few manufacturing clients, but don't be afraid to throw over some ideas. Like, here's a person I'm just questioning. It's big money to recover for your clients. If you're one of the firms that's doing consulting, I think you could look like an all-star for some of your clients. If you're an end user, for us, there's no harm. For us, it's, hey, here's a sample bill. Let us know what you think. Right? We make our life easy, so we don't mind bad questions or what you might think is a dumb question. Nothing's bad for us. I mean, it's how we make our living by helping companies and just getting you more educated on what we do.
Yeah, exactly. I know you feel the same way, Mike. We always say, hey, we're an extension of your team. We want the best for you. So getting money back into your hands is always that. So and as you point out, we both work on some sort of contingency. So no harm in just sending us those invoices and let us take a look at it, or those utility bills.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you,
Cool.
Brian. Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate it. If there are any other further questions that you have, there is a link in the chat to book a meeting. Be happy to answer those questions as Mike and Brian just mentioned. And thank you again for joining.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Patrick and Brian.
Talk soon.